The hard part for me was I was that white male over 50 that nobody in the marketplace wanted. Nobody wanted to hire me because they'd look at my salary history, and I had over almost 20 years of six-figure salaries behind me, and nobody would hire me to do anything at any price. I grew up with my dad building houses, and I used to joke with people, I could build you a new house out of a set of matchsticks and a rubber band, but I couldn't get a job at Home Depot for $15 an hour because of my background. And so I spent a year and a half unemployed. My wife and I pretty much, we lost everything. We lost our home, we lost our savings, we lost our retirement account. The only thing that kept us alive was, thank God, my wife had a decent job. And when I finally did get a job, I changed careers. I went into law enforcement. And I was in law enforcement when I got recruited into network marketing.
Welcome, guys, to the Freedom Factory. I'm excited for today's episode because I've got a person here with us that I've known personally for quite some time, and I've got a lot of respect for him. And so, Greg Dieker, welcome to the Freedom Factory. Nice to have you here.
Well, Brandon, thanks for the invitation to be part of this. I'm truly honored, and I'm excited about today. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it will be. Greg is one of those guys that, you can count on for things when you need them. And Greg's one of those type people. I've known Greg now for probably 14 years. I'll tell you a little backstory. Greg and I are in the same company, but we were kind of coming through the ranks at the same time, and we would get on these calls, and Greg actually got to a rank that I was trying to get to before me. And it was kind of a nice rivalry between Colorado and Florida. And so I always kind of had my sights on that group out there because they were doing some big things. So I'm excited for all of you guys to get to know Greg.
I think we call that co-opetition.
What's that?
We call that co-opetition.
Co-opetition. Well, I'm excited for you to be here, Greg, because not only have you had success in network marketing, but you're a great guy, and I know you can bring a lot of value. So why don't you, before we jump into any specifics, just give everybody a little bit of background. I know you live in Colorado now, but was that where you were raised? Give me a little bit of your background.
Well, I'm a Kansas boy at heart. Grew up in the eastern part of Kansas. Moved out to Colorado when I was 23. Played football at Kansas State University. You can see one of my jerseys hanging in the background. Very important connection for me. I'm an old school kind of guy, and I loved where I came from. I loved the upbringing I had and the family that I had. We came from a rural family. We were farmers and ranchers. We raised everything from pigs and cows and chickens to dairy cattle to, all kinds of crops, corn, wheat, Milo. It just, whatever the season brought, that's what we raised. And so that's kind of the background I came from. And then when I graduated college, I graduated with a business degree and came out to Colorado because I got a great offer from the phone company to come out here. And I spent about 28 years in the telephone, cable, and software industries, different functions all the way across the board doing that. Had a great experience doing it. Got to travel the world literally doing it, and then I was working for a software company that I ended up flat on the street through no fault of my own. I had a situation where the venture capitalists that were backing the company decided to pull their funding, and I went from a $300,000 a year job one day to nothing the day after. And,
what year was that? Do you remember?
That's going to be about 2008. Mm-hmm. And right on the end of the crush of our economy. And
I'm not surprised that's the year. I would have been surprised if you'd have said anything other than that. I'm not surprised that's about the time it was.
Well, the sad part about it is I was doing fantastically in 2007 and 2008, and or six and seven, I should say. And then 2008 came along, and I'm just killing it. I'm having a great time. And all of a sudden, boom, out the door we went. They dropped our entire product line that I was in charge of, despite how successful it had been. And so it was one of those situations that I really didn't understand what was going on. The hard part for me was I was that white male over 50 that nobody in the marketplace wanted. Nobody wanted to hire me because they'd look at my salary history, and I had over almost 20 years of six-figure salaries behind me, and nobody would hire me to do anything at any price. I grew up with my dad building houses, and I used to joke with people, I could build you a new house out of a set of matchsticks and a rubber band, but I couldn't get a job at Home Depot for $15 an hour because of my background. And so I spent a year and a half unemployed. My wife and I pretty much, we lost everything. We lost our home, we lost our savings, we lost our retirement account. The only thing that kept us alive was, thank God, my wife had a decent job. And when I finally did get a job, I had changed careers. I went into law enforcement, and I was in law enforcement when I got recruited into network marketing. And network marketing is something I had tried before, and quite honestly, I had high hopes for, but I'll be honest, I was a 7-time loser at it. I'd been with 7 different companies, never made enough money at any one of the 7 to even cover my expenses, until I found where you and I are at today. And of course, that's just been a blessing beyond blessing beyond blessing. And it got me out of an 8-year career in law enforcement, which I loved law enforcement, by the way. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't where I wanted to be long term. I wanted to be with more people, and quite honestly, a better grade of people, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so it's been a wild ride, but it's been a very entertaining and very educational ride. I've had the opportunity to learn from some great people, including yourself, buddy. I mean, you and I are not on the same business team, yet you've been very generous of your time, very generous of your treasures and sharing information with me, and you've helped my success greatly. So I appreciate you and your wife wonderfully.
I appreciate you saying that. So tell me, let's go back a little bit. Sounds like your parents were hardworking people. Do you think that's kind of where you got it from? Like what you were, it sounds like you were W-2 employee for a number of years, but you were also, if you were in 7 other companies, something tells me there that you had this entrepreneurial, obviously a background. I think your parents, were your parents in business for themselves or not?
Primarily, they were phone company people too, although my dad did eventually get into real estate, and he did eventually have his own brokerage and the like. So he had a little bit of an entrepreneurial streak in him, then he started buying houses and trading houses, and we started building a few houses, and he did some of that at the same time he went to work for the phone company. So he was a real entrepreneur at heart from that perspective, because he was just trying to do everything at once. And my mom held down the fort. She kept a job at the phone company for 49 years before she retired from the phone company. And but I learned a lot from my mother. My mother was the very first female engineer in the history of AT&T or any of the phone companies. She was the first female engineer. She broke that glass ceiling in that company, which I'm very, very proud of her for. And as I used to tell people, she's passed away a few years ago at 88. She was a force to be reckoned with. Didn't matter what we went after, she just never quit. And I think that's part of the reason why I've had the success I've had, is because I learned not to quit from my mother. There was just no quitting that woman, no matter what the subject was, what the challenge was. There was no quitting her, and she didn't accept quitting from me.
Yeah. Were you an only child, or do you have brothers or sisters?
I have a brother, a blood brother and sister. Sister's older than I am, retired in Florida now. In fact, she lives right down the road from you, about 20 minutes in Bradenton. And I have a brother that passed away here 11 years ago. And then I have a younger stepbrother by my mother's second marriage that lives down in Texas. So.
All right. I asked just because we kind of get a feel, for how things turn, but sounds like your mom had a big influence on you with her work ethic, but both of your parents. But what was it that what was it that drew you to network marketing? Because that's a completely different field than what you were doing before.
Well, interestingly enough, I think probably if all of us think back to our college days, at some point in time, you had college counselors having you take these personality tests to see what did your personality match up with as far as in, employment opportunities and futures and things like that. And every single test I took said, Greg, you should be an entrepreneur. But I was raised in that Midwest family kind of mantra that was go to school, get an education, get a degree, get a job, work for somebody for 35 years, and retire and have a decent life. That's the way I was raised. That's the way most all my family was raised. Brothers, cousins, all the way across the mantra, and it was kind of crazy that way. So I kind of ignored what this test had to say, and I went to work. My first job out of college, I went to work for J.C. Penney as a management trainee. And then from there, that lasted 6 months. And that's when I came out to Colorado from Kansas to work for the phone company. But it didn't take me long to realize sitting behind a desk 8 to 5, Monday through Friday was not Greg. I wanted to do other things with my life. I wanted to be able to have more freedom and more income, quite honestly, than what I was making working for a corporation. And so I hadn't been out here 4 or 5 months when I first got introduced to network marketing, simply because I saw as an avenue to build a plan B, so that if plan A, went to crap, or if I just decided I'd had enough of plan A, I'd build a plan B and go off on my own. Unfortunately for me, when that started, I ended up joining some companies that I just didn't get a lot of leadership direction and mentoring from. Much, much different than the company I'm with today, where I feel like from the very start, I got an excellent group of people to align myself with and learn things from that I'd never learned before. And when I look back at, as I mentioned earlier, 7 other companies, when I look back, I can see all the mistakes I made all those years. But then again, were they truly mistakes? Because nobody had ever shown me the right path. Nobody had ever shown me this is how you become a success in this industry. They were way too, if you will, way too steeped in their company and their products and not in being a professional network marketer. Whereas more than 50% of what I got from the current company I'm with was, Greg, how do you become a professional network marketer? And I was kind of more of a professional kind of guy. I was used to wearing a coat and tie to work every day. I was used to being, I was well-educated, well-spoken, well-written. That was my gig. And so I leaned into that, and the rest is history. I'm sitting at the company's second highest rank right now, and I'm chasing you because you've passed me up now, gone to the top of the company. But the reality for me is that I just always knew there was something else I want to do. And it's kind of fun now, because a lot of times I tell people, they say, what do you do for a living? And I'll say, well, let me put it this way. I get up in the morning when I want. I go to bed at night when I want. I work the days I want to work. I don't work the days I don't want to. I get paid whether I'm working or not. If that's the kind of lifestyle you'd like to have, give me 30 minutes of your time. Let's sit down and have a conversation. It might be for you. It might not. If it is, great. If it's not, that's fine too. I don't want anybody here who doesn't want to be here. And there's some people who say, yeah, I want that lifestyle. And then you sit down and say, well, here's what it takes. Here's the sacrifices you have to make. Here's the expectations that you're going to have put on you. Are you willing to accept those and move forward? Some people are, and some people aren't. But it's to me, it's very straightforward. But I love what I do. I love the people I do it with. I love the company I do it with. And I can't say that I ever was in that position in the 28 years that I was in corporate America, or the 8 years I was in law enforcement. All 3 of those just never aligned at the same time.
Yeah. You, I'm sure, your story is like a lot of people. Sounds like the 2008 thing, when that rug got pulled, it definitely has an effect on you emotionally, and the right timing. You were, offered at the right time, an opportunity. So things kind of, lined up for you. even though the rug had been pulled and, all that, maybe, everything looked great. The company that was, that you're in, what you were being told, everything looked great. Tell me a little bit about the process of how you came in. Like, how did you enroll? Like, was it a hey, as soon as I was offered, I'm in type thing? Or did you have some reluctancy? Was there certain things you were just like, I don't know? Was there something holding you back? What did that process look like?
Well, because of the fact that I'd been in network marketing previous to that, there's always all kinds of people calling me and saying, "Hey, I got this new company, new product, whatever. I want to show it to you." And usually I would go look at what they had to offer, because I look at it this way: you never know what you're going to learn, and you never know what they might have to offer. They might have an amazing opportunity, and if I don't at least give them an hour of my time and see what it's worth, I've shorted myself in the process. If nothing else, it's going to be educational. Uh, Same thing happened here. My local chiropractor, I was in to see him for an adjustment, and as I'm walking out of his office, he says, "Hey, Greg," he said, "what are you doing tonight?" I said, "Nothing." "Why?" He said, "Come back to my office at 6:30. I got something I want to share with you." And that's all he said. Well, this is a guy that I had a lot of credibility for, a lot of integrity for. We'd known each other for, gosh, 12, 13 years already. I was used to having he and his entire family come to my house every Christmas Eve and enjoy a big chili feed we'd do at my house on Christmas. And so we were friends. I mean, this wasn't just a doctor-patient relationship. This was someone I truly trusted, and I'd watched his kids grow up and that kind of thing. So when I said I was going to be there, I was going to be there. And so I came back that evening, listened to what he had to say. And at the end of the meeting, he and another gentleman presented information. And at the end of the meeting, quite honestly, I knew that I'd seen something really, really unusual and different, very unique. And I needed a little more information, but I also knew this had the best opportunity I'd ever seen. It just seemed that, I mean, you could feel it, that it had something to offer that other people didn't offer. And quite honestly, I had made a decision before I ever went in the room, and before I went to look at all those other network marketing companies. I made a decision that if I did network marketing again, it was going to take three things. One of them was going to be a one of a kind category creating product that no one else had. This was the first time I'd ever gone to any meeting where I could say that this was what this company was offering. The second thing it had to have was it had to have a compensation plan that paid you up front, in the middle, and on the end. So many of the other companies either gave you great money up front, but it was hard as hell to build something long term, or you gave you nothing up front and it took you years to build any kind of decent income in the long term basis. And so I wanted something that looked balanced. This appeared to be balanced. And the third thing about it was I wanted to work with a group of people that I felt like had my best interest at heart and I was going to learn something from. That's always been a big deal for me my entire life. I'm a cowboy at heart. I live on a small ranch still. I rodeoed for 49 years of my life. I still got 5 horses out in the barn. I have my own arena, my own cows. We still rope steers out here on a regular basis. I've probably been to a dozen roping clinics in my life given by the world's best professionals. I still go to one every now and then. Why? Because there's always something I can learn that I didn't know before.
So let me get this right. If someone's looking, whether they're looking to join a network marketing company or maybe they just joined one, there's 3 things that you're saying is important. One, the product needs to be unique. I heard that from you, right? You got to have a unique product. Compensation plan is really important.
Yep.
And the third piece is that there was the coaching or the training of the people that you were doing it with. Is that the 3 pieces?
Yeah. I really wanted to be with a company that I felt like was going to mentor me, that was going to lead me, because I felt like in so many of the other opportunities, I got thrown to the wolves. I got told, well, here's the meeting next week, bring somebody. Okay, how do I do that without pissing them off? That was what was different here. What was different here is there were people that stood there and said, we're going to work with you. We're going to help you. And they did. It was not just, me on my own or one person. It was an entire organization from both a field organization and from a corporate organization that was dedicated to my success. And so that's what really cemented it for me, was that I wasn't going to be out there on my own. I was in business for myself. I was not in business by myself, which in so many network marketing companies, you're in it by yourself. They're just waiting to see who happens to be lucky enough to be a rock star. And
Yeah.
I'd obviously proven I wasn't a rock star, because I'd been a 7-time loser at 7 other companies. And so I needed somebody to get me headed in the right direction. I'm famous for telling people I'm not a really good unique idea person. I'm not the guy that's going to come up with that brand new program, or I'm not the guy that's going to come up with that brand new concept. But you give me a concept, I'll show you 10 different ways to make it better. So they just had to get me started. They just had to get me going in the right direction with the right kind of leadership and mentorship. And I was able to say, I can take that and I can run with it, and I can make it sound like Greg. And that's what I had to do. And I think that's one of the reasons why, quite honestly, I had some meteoric success early on in this company that a lot of people didn't understand. And I just followed my leaders, and then I made it sound like Greg.
Right. Right. So you really didn't have a lot of reservation. It sounds like you jumped in pretty quickly. But let's talk about some of the obstacles. So you said you had some success. What has been some of the biggest obstacles you've had to face over the last 10, 15 years?
Well, the first obstacle was when I got this introduced to me, I was dead broke. I didn't have 2 20s to rub together, much less 10 Benjamins, so that I could get in the business. And in fact, the little tiny ranch that my wife and I were living on at the time, we'd lost $1.5 million ranch that we'd had prior to that, and lost all the money we put into it, lost it in a short sale. The way we were surviving was I was selling trees off this ranch. I was selling 8 to 10 of them a month for about $250 a piece. And that was putting diesel in the pickup and groceries in the refrigerator. But
Was
I
that
didn't
because
have.
of, was that financial heartache? Was that because of the 2008 situation? Is that what caused that?
Yeah. Well, I went unemployed for almost 2.5 years.
Mm.
And I had just gotten employed as a deputy sheriff when I got introduced to this company.
Mm.
And so, or actually, I had been employed a little while as a deputy sheriff when I got introduced to it. But the long story being is that we were broke. We lost everything. And so, that's how I was making ends meet. And so I didn't have any money in the bank. We were living paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth. If we wanted to talk to a bill collector, all we had to do was answer the phone because they were calling. And I was tired of living that lifestyle. And so when I walked out of that meeting, the first person I called was not my wife to talk to her about the business. I called Steve, the tree guy, and said, "Hey, do you still want that tree in my front yard?" And he said, "Yes." Well, the rest of the story to that was he'd offered me $1,000 for this tree, and my wife had said no because it was in our front yard and she loved it. And it was a beautiful tree. Don't get me wrong. You got to have a really nice tree to sell one for $1,000. And I told Steve, I said, "Be at my house tomorrow morning with a tree spade and a check for $1,000. It's yours." Then I had to go home and explain to my wife what I'd done.
I'm not going to explain why there was a truck in the front yard.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you the conversation went really that well, but I was able to explain to her that I felt like this was the opportunity of a lifetime. And because of that, I was willing to make the sacrifice to lose that tree so I could turn around and get in the business the next day and go to work.
Do you think the fact that you were in that type of situation, I won't call it desperation, but if you're selling trees, like if you did, like you said, if you didn't have 22 20s to rub against, obviously things were tight. Do you think that type situation drove your success early on, or was it something else? Do you think it contributed?
Well, I will tell you that I think that's part of it to get me started, but really what drove me was vision for my future. My future wasn't one where I was selling trees out of my yard to survive. My vision was that I would have solid financial income, that my wife wasn't going to have to worry about where the bills were getting paid, and that we were going to be able to carry on a really good lifestyle. But that wasn't going to be doing law enforcement. Law enforcement paid $3,000 a month. They're notoriously underpaid. And so, I had dropped, my payment from my income from over 300,000 a year to nothing, and then spent 2.5 years unemployed. So, the reality is when I took the law enforcement job, at least it was money. Somebody was willing to pay me for a 40-hour week. And so I took it. When I saw this, I saw an opportunity for my future. And that's where the vision part came in. It's like people ask me about my why. Why did I get into this business? Well, my why was very simply, I was dead broke at the time. I needed a plan B, and I desperately needed that plan B. Somebody needed to throw me a life ring and get me back in the boat. And that's what this turned out to be for me. But the more I looked at it, literally from day one, I looked at, where can we be in 5 years? Where can we be in 10 years? Where can we be in 15 years? I'm just now celebrating 15 years with this company this year. And I never dreamed 15 years ago where I'd be today. So now I look back at that, and I'm so glad to be here, but I'm also looking forward to the next 5 years. And where can we be in 5 years from now? Where can we be in 5 years after that? I'm 68 years old, going to turn 69 this fall. I love what I'm doing. I love the people I'm doing it with. People ask me when I'm going to retire, and I go, why would I retire? I'm having too much fun. I'm enjoying myself with other people. And that's the part that people miss about the network marketing industry. When you talk about obstacles and you try to explain to people just what kind of industry this is, if you're in the right place with the right group of people, there's nothing better. This is the best industry in the world to be with, not just from a financial point, but I don't balance a checkbook. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But at the same time, I get to help people. I've got a friend that's desperately in desperate financial straits a couple of times. And there's more than once I've taken $2,000 out of the bank, put it in an envelope, driven over to his house. And when his wife opened the door, I put the envelope in her hand and I said, I wasn't here. I got to go. And turned around and walked away. And I told her, you don't ever tell anybody where this came from, and I don't want it back. Because I've been blessed enough now to be able to help people like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to be able to help even more people long term. It's that vision. It's that long-term vision of what can I do for other people that's making the difference for me.
Yeah. So I asked you about obstacles. You said financially that was one of the obstacles for you. But since then, you've done this now for almost 15 years. What's been the biggest obstacle? Like, what's been the most difficult thing for you? Because there's no perfect industry, right? Network marketing is, in my opinion, too, it's just a better way than traditional business, but that doesn't mean it's trouble free. So what's been some of the biggest obstacles you've had to deal with over the last 15 years?
Well, when you're talking about obstacles, I'm sure if you're talking about, I don't think you're asking me my personal obstacles. You're asking me the obstacles of people.
Of the industry, like your experience inside the industry with your group, your company, your team. What's been some of the biggest obstacles you've had to deal with, and how did you overcome it?
Well, to be honest with you, my obstacles are more around the fact that I live on a ranch. I run my own, I do my own chores around here. I take care of my own things that are broken. So time is always of essence to me. I spent the last 2 days before this interview sitting outside on a backhoe, digging out a foundation on the side of my garage, because my garage foundation is leaking like a sieve, and I needed to figure out why I'm getting all this water inside. Every single time it rains, it floods in my storage unit in my garage. So, I wanted to do it myself because A, I wanted it done right, and B, it needed to get done and get done fast. And so, that gets in my way sometimes of me being able to do as much as I want to do with this business. I look at myself every day and say, Greg, you need to work more on your business. You need to work more on your business. And I'm trying, but I'm working enough every day to keep myself plugged in, to keep myself engaged, to keep myself excited. I just got off a training call right before I sat down with you to make this. That was real important to me on some new stuff that's going out for my team. So for me, my biggest concern right now, probably for me personally, is time. But when I look at growing my business, my biggest concern is what people think of this industry. I mean, so many people consider us lower than attorneys and used car salesmen, and that's because they don't understand the industry. They don't understand the wonderful things that happen when you can be part of this. I had a long heart-to-heart conversation with a young lady last week, and turns out she's somebody I worked at the phone company with for years, and she even had risen to the rank of executive vice president at the phone company before she retired. And a couple of years after she retired, she got bored, and she got invited to get into a network marketing company that happened to be a cosmetic company. And she loved it. She goes, Greg, I never realized how much fun this could be. And I'm learning all of this from her having lunch one day a couple of years ago. And she was just having a ball. Well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, her company pulled the plug on the entire company. And all of the consultants with that company are now out of a job. The company's going to sell directly to the public. And I mean, I felt terrible for her and everybody else that's on her team, because they worked so hard to build an income, to build a business, to build a customer set, only to have it taken away from them. And it's things like that that make this industry look bad. Now, granted, it doesn't happen often. There's thousands of network marketing companies out there, and that tends to happen to like one company a year, maybe two at the most. But it always gets blown up bigger than what it is. So for me, my biggest challenge so often is talking to people and having them understand how great of an industry this really is. You kind of said it yourself earlier. It may not be perfect, but it is a better way. You can get out of this what you put into it, and the harder you work, usually the more success that comes your way, especially if you've got good leadership and good mentorship to follow. Success is going to come your way. It's just going to take time. And then you just got to decide what you want out of it. I know what I want out of it, and I haven't reached all my goals yet. That's why at 69 years old, I'm still doing this, and I'm going to keep doing it until I get where I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest benefit you've gained from network marketing outside of the money?
The people, hands down. I've associated myself with the best people I can imagine associating myself with, you included. As I said earlier, you and I are on the same business team, but we've managed to strike up a friendship. You have been a wonderful resource so many times. For crying out loud, you bailed me out in an airport an hour away from your house when I showed up, and turns out I had an expired driver's license. Nobody knew it, and I couldn't rent a car. And what'd you do? You drove an hour from your house and gave me your truck so that I'd have a truck to drive while I was down there for one of our company events. You can't buy that kind of friendship. You can't buy those kinds of associations. My best friend in the whole world right now is a guy that I met in this business. Is from Louisiana, Sonny Belanger. He's part of your team. We know him well. Sonny and I talk every day. He is just the greatest guy, and he's my best friend. And I'd never known him if it wasn't for this company. And the most beautiful part is it doesn't seem to matter where I go. And you probably have this same thing happen to you. If you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm going to go to Charlottesville next week," who's out there? You got 5 people fighting over who's going to pick you up at the airport. 5 more fighting over whose house you're going to stay at. It's just the greatest group of people to be that way, and it's that way whether I go to London or whether I go to Dublin or whether I go to Australia. It doesn't matter. Like all over the world, somebody is going, "Hey, Greg's coming to town. Somebody, let's go get him. Let's pick him up. Let's take him out to dinner. Let's whatever." And they're just the most positive-minded people, because they, like me, they believe in helping other folks. They have a vision for their future. And so I had a why when I started this business, and my why was to make some money. I really needed to make some money. But my why went away a long time ago. Yeah, it really did. I was telling somebody the other day that I think for 156 consecutive months now, this company has sent me a 5-figure check, and I don't have to worry about my checking account anymore. And and because of that, the financial part of it's taken care of. And so now I don't have a why, but I have a vision. I have that vision I told you about, that where am I going to be in 3 years? Where am I going to be in 5 years? Where am I going to be in 10? And what can I do now to get me to that position, get my family to that position, and get me to that legacy that I'm going to leave behind?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good. So 15 years you've been around the industry. Well, you did it a few times before then. What would you say has, if there's one action step that's led to the majority of your success? Like what's the one thing that you've done that you can identify that's led to your success?
I've gotten much better at asking questions than making statements. If you ask enough of the right questions, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. You ask enough of the right questions from people, you're going to find out what their needs, wants, pains, and desires are in life, and then solve their problems. If somebody asks me today, what do I do for a living? I tell them I'm a professional problem solver. That's all there is to it. I'm nothing else. I try to find out what people's problems are in life, and I especially want to find out what are their health problems and what are their financial problems. I have a guy that joined my business a while back that I know is just an avid elk hunter. And I said to him, hey, man, how'd your elk hunt go this year? And he said, hey, I didn't get to go. And I said, you're kidding me. I said, you always go. You never miss. He goes, yeah, I know. I said, couldn't afford it this year. And my next question was, well, what are you going to do to afford it next year? Mm-hmm. And he went, I don't really know. I said, can you make more money at your job? And he said, no, I don't think I can. I think I'm pretty tapped out on that. I said, well, if you'll give me 30 minutes of your time, I'd love to share with you what I'm doing. I started it out as a plan B on the side. I made it so it didn't impact my full-time job. I did it on the side, and eventually my plan B took over my plan A, and I got rid of the plan A and got a new plan A so that I could do whatever I wanted to do. Let's sit down and talk about it. Are you interested in hearing about it? It's questions. I don't say, hey, you have to hear this. I go, would you like to hear about it? Would you like to hear about a way you can make sure that you get to go to elk camp next year? That's how I ask my questions. And I just think if you ask enough of the right questions, you'll get enough of the right information to be able to share with someone, no matter what company you're with, no matter what product or service you're offering, you'll find out whether or not you've got a solution to this person's problem. If I've got a solution to their problem, I'm going to offer it. If I don't have a solution, I'm not going to offer it. I'm not, because then that looks like sales. That looks like I'm trying to shove something down somebody's throat. So don't do that. And I think that's part of the trouble people have not having success in network marketing, is they try to get somebody to buy their product or their service when in fact that person doesn't have a need for that product or service. Mm-hmm. And then they feel like they're being sold to.
Yeah, I heard recently, younger guy, exciting guy to listen to, actually, that's in network marketing, and he said he learned through some sales organizations he worked for that before you can prescribe a solution, you have to first diagnose a problem or the problem.
There you go.
Before you can prescribe a solution, you have to first diagnose a problem. And I love that you're saying that that's kind of what, the one thing, that one action step is you asking more questions. My final question for you is, well, I got two. How do you define success in network marketing? What does success mean to you in network marketing?
Success to me in network marketing is how many people can I help get what they want to get out of this? Because if I do that, it takes care of anything I want. The more people I help be successful, every single person that joins my team, I sit down and have a goal setting session with them to say, what do you want out of this? And think big. What do you want short term? What do you want mid-term? What do you want long term? Let's talk about that. And then let's talk about how we get you there. So the more people from my team that I can see cross stage, and have those ranks and have those rewards and those things, so that they get out of life. I get such a kick out of. I mean, Facebook is waste book for the most part, but I get a kick out of seeing people on my team on vacation and have them talk about, it's the first family vacation we've taken in 5 years. And then more times than not, they'll say, I want to thank my company for the money for us to be able to do this. Whether or not it's a vacation or whether it's just, putting their kids in the right school or they're getting a new car or whatever. I love to see people get the success that they want. That's more fun than anything. And so for me, it's like I've closed a lot of meetings in my life by saying, when it's all over and when we leave this big rock we call Earth, it's not going to be about the horses you rode or the trucks you drove. It's not going to be about the homes you've lived in or the places you've gone. It's going to be about the people's lives that you've affected and the legacy that you leave behind. You just have to decide what kind of legacy do you want to leave. For me, I want to leave a legacy. I want people to think about me for long after I'm gone. I want people to be able to say, yeah, that's part of Greg's team that they built. That's what I want to hear.
What do you feel? I love that response. What do you feel is the future of network marketing? Like, where do you think it's headed? I mean, I know you and I've both seen it change over the years. Has it even changed? Like, has it gone full circle? Like, so many people have philosophies or ideas, but I'd like to know what your viewpoint is of where is network marketing heading? What's the future for network marketing?
Well, when I look at what's happening to the economy right now, I got to believe that network marketing is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. A day doesn't go by that when I look through my news feed, I don't see another story about another company filing bankruptcy and closing every one of their stores, another company laying off 50,000 employees. Just the list goes on and on and on. I pulled a list the other day that I'm adding to my opportunity meeting presentation that listed all these, if you will, 5-star companies that we all think the world of that are closing and laying people off left and right. There was like 24 of them. And I'm like, wow, I've shopped in every one of those stores. I've been in those places before and spent my money with those places, and now they're going away. I mean, look at Red Lobster, for crying out loud. Red Lobster is one of the most successful seafood restaurants in the country, and they're talking about closing, like 300 stores this year.
Sears, Best Buy, it goes on and on.
The list goes on and on and on. And so the reality is that the economy, network marketing, I've heard this said before, network marketing thrives in a bad economy and it thrives in a good economy. Because when a good economy is, people recognize it's not always going to be a good economy. And in a bad economy, people are like, wow, I could be next. Anybody that thinks they're safe, they're not. They're not
I've
safe.
noticed? I've noticed that when it's a bad economy, people are more apt to join the business because they're looking for opportunities. When it's a bad economy, they're looking for an opportunity. They know. When it's a good economy, revenue flies off the charts for the companies because people have the money to buy extra products. So it's a win-win. When the economies are down, we gain lots of business partners, which is where we are right now. The economy, you'd have to have your head under rock and sand to know that we are in a very difficult place. If you don't think we are, just go try to buy. Just ask a 20 or 30-year-old if they can buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. Ask a 20 or 30-year-old if they can do that, and they can't. They can't do it. And you could 20, 30 years ago. So we know that. So that's why I think we are. I think you're right. I think we're living in a great time right now in network marketing. I believe that the future for network marketing is better than it's ever been. I think it's better than it's ever been. And what are your thoughts for someone like yourself? There may be some people saying, hey, I'm in my 60s and I just don't know if I can do this.
Well, first of all, I don't think age has a thing to do with it. I don't care if it matters if you're 18 or you're 68, you can do this. If you want to, you can do this. For people like myself, I got into this business when I was 54 years old. And I was dead broke, not a dime to my name. I had no retirement. I had no nothing. And now I've built a business that sends me a check every month that's the equivalent of having about $4 million in the bank. Now, I haven't even made $4 million. And when you add up the 15 years I've been in this business, I haven't made $4 million, much less taken those $4 million, turned around and put that money into an investment so that I can live off the interest. And that's what comes into my bank account every single month. So if a guy like me who's 54, he's a 7-time loser at 7 other companies, never made it work, can come into a company and just follow the plan and do what you're supposed to do, without a doubt, as long as you've got a passion for helping people, you got a passion for solving people's problems, it's not going to matter your age, it's not going to matter a lick. And for all those people out there right now that are looking at their retirement accounts and going, wow, I don't have enough money to retire. Well, guess what? I didn't have a dime. It wasn't that I didn't have enough money. I didn't have any money. No money. No bueno. Okay. I had to start over from scratch. And now money comes in. And I take that money and I reinvest that money. I just got done buying some T-bills, that pay every month. Okay. I'm reinvesting what I've made from this company to help me build even more, financial stability for my family. And that's the key. The key is that you just don't want to get in a habit of living from paycheck to paycheck. You want to get in a habit of putting some money in the bank, so that someday, on top of what you're making from a network marketing check, you've got other sources of income that are also coming in. You've got that multiple streams of income concept. And so for me, it's been a blessing. I can tell people every day I'm the most blessed and fortunate guy on the planet. To have started where I started here at 54 years old, dead broke, without a dime to my name, and be able to accomplish what we accomplished here. I don't take any of the credit for it. I take none of the credit for it. I thank my Lord and Savior for it. I thank my friends. I think, the mentors and family members that I've had that have joined me doing this, which, by the way, has been very few family members. So it wasn't like, I relied on them. But, I look at other network marketing companies I was part of. There's two people in my company today that was in one of those companies in years past. So I didn't have a team to bring over with me. I didn't have a bunch of people to get started at. I started out with one guy who went and got one guy, who went and got one girl. That's how it all got started. And so you can do this. You just have to decide what's your vision look like. Where do you want to be? And then talk to the person you're working with, talk to your mentor, talk to your enroller, and say, how do I get what I want out of this? And then follow the plan.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for being here with us today, Greg. It's nice to have you share some of your insight and wisdom, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing for the industry, and I appreciate you being here with us on the Freedom Factory.
Brandon, thank you. It's been my honor.